Hello everyone, Mrs. Tricom Champ here with another tutorial video for the Garden Tracker. Today we're going to go over the Veg and Flower Trends tab. Now we're going to combine both of these tabs because they're essentially the same tab. One is you're just going to pull the information from your flower, and the other you're going to pull the information from your veg. But the way you pull the information is going to be pretty much exactly the same. Alright, now as we go through and we pull the information, since we're pulling information for the veg trends and information for the flower trends on separate tabs, you're going to want to make sure that you go in and you're pulling the information from the proper place. Up at the top here on the veg tab, the averages, the current averages from day 1 to present, that's already set up as a pivot table for you. So all we have to do is go in and have it pull from the source that we need it to. And where this is going to be pulling from is going to be from your daily notes. And I do have some information put in here so that we can have it pull the information for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to click on our Analyze button at the top. Since these rows are already highlighted, we just need to click on Analyze. From there we're going to go to Change Data Source to ensure we're pulling from the proper source. Now from there, it looks like I already have it set up for you guys to pull from the Veg Room tab on the daily notes. But if it's not, you would just want to make sure that it is pulling from the veg side and not from your flower room side. So what I do is, there's going to be information that you're putting in here day after day after day. Now you could go through and just highlight, the days that you're working with, or you can go through and highlight a whole set of rows, and as you continue to update the information, all you'll have to do from there is just go in and refresh it. And so that's what I like to do. So you would want to make sure that everything from date to humidity is highlighted and all the way down to the number of rows you're wanting to work with. I like to just go through and highlight a bunch of empty rows so I don't have to change this constantly. And once you have your source data set up, you're going to be able to see that green box that's highlighted in that perforated green line. So once you have your source data set up with all the information that you're wanting it to pull, you're going to come over here and click OK. Once you click OK, it's going to automatically push you back over to that Trends tab, and it's going to update that information here for you. So now as you go through day after day, you're just going to go into your daily notes and you're going to update, your next day's notes. So we'll just go in and we'll put something here just for an example so you can see what we're going to do. And let's make this kind of higher so we can kind of see it change here. So now that I have this row of information added here, we need to go back to our Veg Trends tab so that we can update or have this information refresh. So again, you're going to want to make sure that this whole row of information is highlighted. From there, you're going to go up to your pivot table tools and to Analyze and then to Refresh. From here, we're going to refresh all, and it's all automatically going to do it for you. As you notice, this side of the information is already set up as well. This is a formula that's pulling from this side where the pivot table is. So please be sure that when you are looking at this side that you're not overwriting the information, because it will remove that formula from you. So now that you have this set up for your veg side, you would do exactly the same thing for your flower side. You would highlight this information, you'd come up to Analyze, ensure that it's pulling from the right source, which it is. I already have it set there, but you would just want to ensure that it's pulling for the right amount of columns or for rows for you, so you're not having to update that every day. Once that is, you'd click OK, it would come back over here and it would populate all that same information the same way that it did on the Veg Trends tab for you. So again, they're both pretty much the same tab, you're just pulling the information from different sources. The veg is coming from the veg side, the flower information is coming from your flower side. So pretty basic on that side. So now let's go in and we need to see the trends by week. So this you're going to actually pull from your veg room. And since we already have this information in here, as you remember in a past video, I wanted you to make sure that you had this header added after each week. And this is where it's going to come into play for us. So what we need to do is we're going to go back to our Veg Trends tab. And I have this set here so you can put in, whatever the strain is, and you have your week 1 data. So after that, you come in, you put your cursor under that spot. We're going to go to Insert. And again, if you want to pull graphs with it, you can. If you want to just pull the pivot table and just have the table of information, you can do it that way. But we'll pull it with a graph as well. So we're going to go to the pivot chart option here. And again, we need to go to our veg room tab because this is where it's going to pull all the information. And since I am pulling just week 1, we're going to say that this top bit of information is week 1. So that's going to be my source data. This is going to be broken down by week for you, so you are only pulling that particular week's data. So ensure, again, that when you pull this source data that you're only pulling the week that you're wanting to work with at that time. So as we can see, I have it all set up here. I am pulling just that 1 week's worth of data here because I can see that green boxes surrounded that information. Once I have that all set, I'm going to click OK. It's going to pull us back over to the Trends tab. From there, we have to tell our pivot table what we want it to pull. So for this, we want to choose our date. We're also going to click on time. That's also going to put it down here in the rows as well. So we're going to be able to see, is it, our trends from the AM to the PM. We also want to, for this particular one, we're going to pull what is the temp outside of what is the temp outside the tent, what is the temp inside the tent for the high, and what is the low temp inside. Once you click on those 3 items, as you notice, it put it in the value section for me. But again, if you look, it's pulling the sum of the temp. I don't want it to pull the sum of it. I want it to pull what is the max temp at that time. What was the max temp that it was? So I'm going to set all of these to that max. And all you have to do for that is just click on whichever box you're working with, click on that value field setting, and then you have the option to choose max from here. Once you do that, it's going to update all this information here for you. And then you got your pretty little graph to go with it as well. The graph you can update and move, to make it bigger, smaller, whatever you need to do. But here you're going to be able to see all the information for that particular week based on the time. Now, since we also have it set to max, your grand totals down here are going to show the max temps for that week. So for the temp outside of the tent, the highest temp we had for that was 74.8. You'll be able to look at this and see, okay, what was our highest? What was our lowest if you wanted to set it to the lowest as well. You could change that all by changing these value field settings. But for me, I like to know what was the max, so I can see through that week we had a spike of 78.4. Now I can look at what day was that. That was, it looks like, on the 24th. So if anything happened and I had issues around that time, I'll be able to look and see, everything was good except for that day was really, warmer compared to the rest, or so on. And it's doing the same thing with each of these tabs here. Now, for this, if you went and added, say, the humidity to this, I have it separated, so I pull just the temps and then I pull the humidity by itself. The humidity is pulling off of a different number scale. It's usually pulling off of percent, so adding that in with your temps, it generally won't pull the information the same. So I always do a table for my temps and then I do a separate table for my humidity. So in order to do that, I'm going to just do another pivot table with chart. So I'm going to go back up to insert, go back to my pivot chart, and I need to set my source data again. I'm actually pulling it from the exact same spot. So I need to go back to my veg room. I need to pull that first week's worth of data again. And again, make sure that you're only pulling that week, the week that you're working with. After I have that set, I'm going to click OK. I'm going to come down here and I have my pivot table to work with. And this time, I'm just going to do my date and time again. And instead of doing my temps, I'm going to do my humidity. Like the temps, it also put in some of humidity, and I want to change that to the max. Once I do that, I also want to go through and ensure that these are all set up to be percentages. So you're going to want to highlight that and come up to your home tab. Under number, there's the percent. You click that and it automatically changes it for you, and it also changes the table or the graph for you as well. So for me, I just kind of change this and I kind of try to adjust the boxes so that they kind of line up, so that if I'm looking at this, I can look at this date for my temps and I can look right below and I can see where the humidity was based on a graph. You can look at it visually that way, or I can also look at it, the table view as well. It all just depends on what you're trying to look at and how you want to view it. Everybody views things in different ways. So for me, I like to have the graphs as well as the table. So there's your week 1 data. Now if you wanted to go and put another week, I just copy this up here. I move it down below. I would just come in and change this to week 2. So now that you have your next week's data title started, you just need to add the information for the pivot table for the next week. So you would do the exact same thing. Go up to insert, choose your pivot chart. The only difference is you're going to just pull it from the next week. Again, you're either going to go to your veg room or your flower room, depending on which data tab you're working with. And again, make sure that you're pulling the proper information, including that header. That header is important. If you don't have that header, the pivot table will not work properly. And again, you're just going to update the information. You got your pivot table over here. We just need the date and time. One thing to keep in mind, this is, as you notice as I hit day and time, it was separated by the months, since it was April and May data that I had in that particular week. If you don't want the months broken down, you just kind of highlight that and you pull it off to the side and it'll remove that for you. So now it's just going to do the dates and the times for me again, which that's what I want. And again, the first one is going to be my temps. So it's going to be all those temps that I have. And with this information, if you look back at the veg room, some of the information I don't have filled all the way out. So it's not going to pull the information quite exactly the same. But if you had all this information out, it would pull it the same as the first week. Again, make sure that all of your values are set to max instead of the sum. And then we can go in here and add the one for our humidity. So again, insert, pivot chart. We're going to ensure we're going back to our veg room. We're pulling that same second week's data. And this time we are just going to pull the date and time. We're removing that month since it automatically pulled that. And we're going to choose humidity for our values. Again, we need to change it to the max. We'll want to go down and update this information so it pulls as a percentage. And there we go. It's got all that information pulled here for us. So then again, you can adjust your graph so that it looks and is in the shape or size that you need it so you can visually see the information. So again, that's pretty basic. That's all you're going to have to do. You're just going to do the exact same thing week over week. Change this information. Go to your pivot table, and from there you're just going to pull from the next week's data. If this was coming up on our next week, I would just move and copy and paste my header and I would go through and put all my information down below that for the next week. Once the week's over, I go to my trends and I add the new pivot table so that it's so I can go in and see my trends for that particular week. Now if you're doing the flower trends, again, everything is going to be pretty much the exact same thing. You know, this time instead of pulling from our veg room, we're going to pull from the flower room data. But how you pull everything, what you're pulling, how you're changing the pivot table information, you know, over here is going to be exactly the same. So there's not really much to it. It's a pretty basic, simple little pivot table. So, you know, if you were nervous or scared before with Excel, you know, I hope this kind of eased some of that feeling. You know, once you get going and you start pulling this week after week, it's all going to come second nature to you. You're going to be able to come in here quickly, pull the information you need to. You're going to bam, 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 have all these charts and graphs, and you're going to be good to go. So I hope all this information was useful and you feel a little more comfortable using pivot tables in Excel. I wasn't an Excel guru myself, but the more I've worked in Excel, the more comfortable I feel. I hope this has been useful and helpful information. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to us on the channel. You can always send me an email at mrstrichomechamp@gmail.com. I hope you all have a great day and stay lifted.